Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast, is sponsored by the UPS Store Canada.
Hi, I'm Terry DeMonte, and sitting across from me is Ted Bird. It's another episode of the Standing By podcast with Terry DeMonte and Ted Bird. Thank you very much for supporting the podcast and listening. This episode of the podcast is guest-free and apparently clothing optional.
Thank God it's guest-free. I'm so tired of having to put clothes on for the podcast whenever we have a guest.
I'm calling Pantelis.
I hope this was worth the laugh because it's quite humiliating.
It's a good thing we don't have an HR department.
Yeah, no kidding. Eh?
Earlier today, we were talking about Ted's shoulder hair, and that's an interesting thing to deal with later on in life.
Yeah.
Also, there's been various discussions over the past week about man-teats, and Ted said, "Oh, damn it, shit, I forgot to change my shirt." And we rolled with Ted sitting there. If you're not watching on YouTube, you don't know what we're on about, but Ted was shirt-free there for a second. Yeah,
for the beginning. But now I have a shirt on. Now I am clad.
Yes, you are. You're clad. You're well-dressed. Your hair is combed, and we're ready to go.
My shoulder hair is also combed. When did that happen?
That's a thing.
Yeah.
Before we get going, we right off the bat love to thank our title sponsor, the UPS Store Canada. The UPS Store Canada, when you hear the words UPS, you think of the brown trucks and the shipping, but the UPS Store itself is much, much more than that. I've used them many, many, many times to get me out of many, many pickles, and I've actually used them to ship pickles. You can do that too.
You have not.
No, I'm just kidding about that. But if you wanted to ship pickles, they could handle that for you. If you're
That's ship pickles with a P. If you want to shit pickles, you're on your own.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
UPS can't help you with that. They have everything you could imagine to help your run-at-home business. If you're a small entrepreneur, you'll be dealing with an entrepreneur who's running the UPS store. So the families that own these locations know what you need, know how to help you, and know how to solve a lot of your problems with packaging, shipping, document finishing services. They can look after passport and ID photos. They can look after packing something fragile, shipping it for you, or selling you boxes and tape and stuff like that. Anything that you can come up with, whether you're running a business from your garage or you need to send something to your daughter who's just gone to college in Toronto, they can look after it for you. There's over 370 locations across the country, and David Drucker and all of the owners, operators of all of those UPS stores across the country apparently are proud to be the sponsor of the podcast.
So it would seem.
Yes. And Ted and I thought we would cover a different topic, a couple of different topics this week. We've had a lot of, and I want to address this, and I'm a little nervous to address this because I don't like to talk about age and getting older because I'm 65. I celebrated my 65th. Well, I didn't celebrate my 65th birthday. I was asleep on an operating table.
You survived your 65th
exactly.
birthday.
I don't remember anything about it. But Ted and I have been talking about it. We don't feel 65. We don't act 65. We don't think 65 or think what we think 65-year-olds are like. I was just doing a technical check for our producer, Poseidon, and I did this. So that doesn't seem like a very dignified...
I don't remember my grandfather doing that.
However, there have been a couple of moments. Yesterday on the Met, Ted had a grandpa moment behind the steering wheel. He had his hands at 10 and 2 and did the kind of, I'm going to change lanes. There was that, and then Ted and I began talking about projectiles from the mouth. This has become a thing that we have to be more careful of when you're talking to strangers at an event. and suddenly something unidentified launches from your bush and ends up on the person across from you. There. That?
And then you're in. Then the conundrum is: do I acknowledge
Right. I
it
say, I'm
and
sorry.
apologize
Sorry I spit on you.
and pick it off them,
Right.
or do you just keep going and
Right.
pretend it never happened?
And there was the discussion about shoulder hair. When we were kids, we never talked about shoulder hair. Who had hair on their shoulders?
Well, hello.
Okay.
I do now.
Yeah. And that came from a Facebook post this week.
Yeah.
And also there was the lovely. We were sitting outside between episodes, and Ted had to pass wind. He was on the phone with our producer, and he said to me as he was waving a napkin by his lap, "Do you want anything to eat?" "Not now, I don't." And the last one is when we were interviewing Pierre Hood. The topic of the noise in the Bell Center, the sound of the Bell Center came out, and Ted said, "I'll take anything other than that racket that comes from that scoreboard." Anyway, I thought we would address some of these things because you don't feel like a grandpa, do you, Ted?
No, not one bit. Well, I'm not a grandpa. I'm
No.
old enough to be one, but
Yeah.
no, I don't feel like one. And I'm a firm believer that age is just a number.
Yes.
And if you convince yourself that you're old, then you're probably going to feel old.
Yeah, you're in great shape.
Sorry, I'm interrupting, gentlemen.
That's all right.
There's one more that I enjoyed from Ted's part.
Okay.
In the lobby here, when you dropped your juice box. You don't remember what I'm talking about?
No.
You dropped.
Oh, when I fell over?
No. No. You dropped like the little container where you put liquids in and you drink out of.
Okay. Oh, that thing, yeah.
Yeah, and then you picked it up and started insulting it like.
Yeah. Yelling at the inanimate object. Yeah. You piece of shit. Yeah. How dare you fall out of my hand onto the floor?
Make me bend over.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing to navigate, and if you're not anywhere close to our age, you probably don't know what we're talking about.
I'll stand by.
But it's coming for you. It
Yeah.
comes for everybody.
Yeah.
And these are things that sort of creep up on you. And I thought it was fun to address what we referred to as the old man moments. The other one that's happened to me recently, and my wife said, bring this up on the podcast. After I was in the hospital in January for 31 days on a diet of ice chips for 30 days.
Like literally?
Literally. I didn't, well, they were feeding me through my nose.
Oh, okay. So you were being fed intravenously, but the only thing you could put in your mouth was ice chips.
Right. While I was on life support, it didn't matter. They were feeding me some kind of liquid stuff through my nose. But when I started to come out of it, the only thing they would let me eat was ice chips. And towards the end of my stay there, I was offering the nurses at the Vancouver General Hospital $1,000 for a ginger ale, but I wasn't allowed to take anything in. And the medical reason, we won't get into all of that, but I ended up dropping 31 pounds, 32 pounds, something like that. And my wife said, it's funny how people, they shower you with compliments, saying, wow, you look great. Boy, you look amazing. And underneath that, geez, you look terrific is, wow, you're not fat anymore. Like no one would think to say to you, you're getting a little fat over there, aren't you? But they I mean, I understand the kindness.
I think it's
of
known
it.
as tact.
Yeah. I think I understand the kindness of it, but it was something that we noticed when I came out of the hospital.
The food flying out of the mouth thing. I also experienced that when I'm eating. It'll fall out of my mouth. Something will fall out of my mouth. And I was telling Terry before we came on the podcast. There's a young lady who I fancy quite a bit. Her name's Maxine. She's lovely. And she's very, very pretty. And I'm friends with her. And it would be nice. Look at me, I'm drooling right now. it would be nice. It would be nice if for me if it ever went beyond that. But I don't think she's interested, and that's fine. And she's very nice, and we have a nice friendship. Anyway, we were talking one day about, we've been out a few times just socially, and we were talking one day about I don't know what. And anyway, we got on to the getting older thing, and I said, I said sometimes now with me, sometimes I'll be eating and a bit of food will fall out of my mouth, and she said, I know. So it's
quite fetching.
Yeah, she'd seen it, I guess, and was discreet enough not to bring it up at the time.
But you said to me earlier too, better that we know than we don't.
Oh, for sure, yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you're dropping food on your blouse,
and you're oblivious to it, that's when it's time to go to the home.
Not yet. It's too early.
No. I was at the home recently.
Were you?
Yeah, my ex-wife's mother, so my ex-mother-in-law, is suffering from early onset. Well, I don't know if it's early onset. She's suffering from dementia,
right?
And she's in an elderly care residence. And on Mother's Day, I went with my daughter Allie, and God bless them both. Allie said, "You know who this is?" And Pam said, "Yes, I know who my own son-in-law is."
Oh,
yeah,
wow,
yeah. So she's it's
moment of lucidity.
Well, I guess, yeah. I think that there are more of those than there are. Right. I suppose it's probably progressive. But what really impressed me from that experience was how good Allie was with her. And Allie's only 15 years old.
Right.
And Allie's a typical teenager. Like, it's hard for me to get the time of day out of Allie because she's 15 and I'm dad.
Right.
What 15-year-old girl wants to, talk to dad and hang out with dad? But I watched her with her grandmother, and she was absolutely fantastic with her. Yeah, she was so good with her. And Sam, my son and Allie's brother, told me afterwards, that's what Allie wants to do. She wants to run a senior citizens residence.
No kidding.
When she's older. And that I was so proud to hear that.
I was just going to say that's a great source of pride for you.
And it was it was kind of out of character, at least from my perspective, for Allie. But she loves to go and see her grandmother and talk with the elderlies, as she calls them.
Right.
I'm going to see the elderlies, Dad.
I want to steer off just quickly because we just saw him here in the lobby. I was telling Ted one of the things about the experience that I had in January at the hospital. And if you don't know the story I'm referring to, I had open heart surgery on my birthday, January the 3rd. The operation went very well. I was having a heart valve replaced, which is more commonplace than you know these days. Please, if you haven't been to the doctor in a long time, go have somebody put a stethoscope on your chest. Anyway, I had open heart surgery. It all went very, very well, and then it all went very, very bad. I ended up catching infections in the ICU that, to be honest with you, nearly took me out. And it really has, it's kind of cleared my thought process about things that bother me and used to bother me and shouldn't bother me. There are a lot of things I don't give a shit about anymore.
Changed your perspective.
Changed my perspective. Thank you, Ted.
Well, a near-death experience will do that.
Yeah, it will. And it gives me a real sense of gratitude, especially to do this, because what we're doing right now, speaking on a mic with my longtime friend and colleague, is something that I just love to do. And we do it with the support of sponsors and people like you that are listening, which is really great. And I want to take a moment to mention Pantelis and Mike Ward and the people here in the studio that we're recording at, because I think it was 2 years ago. I don't know how we're on season 5. Mm-hmm. So I think 2 years ago, Pantelis invited us in after I was retired. And him and Mike Ward said to us, "You guys should be doing a podcast." And we said, "How are we going to do that?" And they said, "You're going to do it right here, and we're going to show you how, and we're going to put you on our platform, and we're going to support you." And they have been amazing. And Pantelis, who's a stand-up comic and a podcaster in a big way in his own right, has very successful podcasts. Mike Ward, I think, Poseidon, you'll be able to tell me, still the most listened to French podcast on the planet.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like
He is
stunning.
He is the champion of champions.
Yeah. Just stunning.
Sold out the Bell Center.
Figures. Yeah. It's
one night or two? I mean, one night isn't.
One night.
impressive
One night,
enough.
but-
You only did the one. You were there, right?
I was there.
Yeah.
The energy, because you guys were talking about energy on top of it before in a hockey match. The energy from the crowd in the Bell Center was the most insane thing I've ever experienced in my life. It was something else.
Yeah.
And he sold it out for one night, but 2 shows he had.
An incredible talent. A really lovely man.
Well, that's a big part of it, I think. Pantelis, Poseidon, he's so likable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's so likable, and he can be so edgy and inappropriate.
Yeah.
Some people would say with his comedy.
Yeah.
But he's so likable, he gets away with it.
Yeah.
I guess much the same way as Sugar Sammy
Yeah.
is so likable. That allows him to get away with stuff that less likable people could not.
Yeah.
Well, because Mike is actually a good person too.
Well, he is.
that's
Yeah,
what we're saying.
and so is Sammy.
Yeah, Sammy's got a massive heart.
Yeah.
I could tell stories about his kindness to me in the last 6 months, and we'll save that for another day. But while we're talking about that, mention the podcast, for me, Poseidon, Mike's Pantelis, what do they call it? Was Suzekut?
Mike Ward, Suzekut, Pantelis podcast, and Frenchcast.
And there's 2 drink minimum as well.
Oh yeah, 2 drink minimum.
Yeah.
Where it's me, Mike Pantelis, and I. Did I just say me, Mike Pantelis?
Me,
and
Mike Pantelis, and I.
I did the I did the me I bro,
Yeah,
and I had Mike and Pantelis in between.
You did the 450.
Yeah.
And it's I think the best podcast right now in Canada.
That's the signature.
Right.
My wife and I ran into somebody in British Columbia, and we overheard somebody saying, and I said, that guy's from Quebec.
Yeah.
For sure. Without question, that guy's from
And
Quebec.
I'm guessing that it comes from moi je.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's French carrying. It's the same reason that a lot of people in Montreal end their sentences in fuck when they're speaking English. What happened to the Habs? Fuck. Yeah. You know, how did that get started, Steve?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's
Moi
just
je. I never thought about that.
Well, don't you hear that a lot
Yeah.
from Francophone Quebecers? Moi je, j'aime.
I did, but I just never made the connection because
Yeah.
to me, it was an Italian thing. Me, I, bro.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So that's why I
Yeah.
never made the. But that makes a
Is
lot of
bro
sense.
Italian or Greek or both?
Both, I think.
I don't know.
I
Look,
think,
looking at history, we probably started it. But
Yeah,
whatever.
probably. And could I just say, this is nobody's business, and it's certainly not my business, but I'm on the podcast, so fuck it. Somebody buy Pantelis a chocolate bar.
Yeah, he's losing a lot of weight.
He
And-
looks he looked terrific, and
Yeah.
and now he's looking a little waifish.
Yeah, a little emaciated.
And
yeah.
you just said to him, we just saw him, and you just said to him, hey.
Who are you and what have you done with the rest of Pantelis? Yeah. But he's lost a ton of weight, eh?
Yeah, 100 pounds.
Poseidon? 100, eh?
100 pounds.
Wow.
Good for him.
And the old-fashioned way too, right? No,
Oh yeah, straight up.
no magic tricks, no surgeries, no.
Just he took care of his eating habits.
Yeah.
And the weight came off naturally.
That's
Jesus, I admire
more
that.
than anything, it's eating, eh? If,
Yeah.
if you can be disciplined with your eating.
Yeah.
Because I go to the pool all the time. I go to the hill. I've got a stationary bike in my apartment, and I exercise like 6 days out of 7 usually, and I'll go hard for 45 minutes to an hour. And it's helped a lot.
And
Like
it's
I've
good
lost-
for your ticker.
Yeah, it's great for your ticker. And I've lost, I don't know, maybe 30, 35 pounds
Yeah.
over the last 7 years or so. But I could still stand to lose another 20. But I can't, and it's because my eating habits aren't good.
Well, I'm also of the, especially in light of my recent surgery. I lost 31 pounds. I put 10 back on, but I had to because my legs were like licorice sticks.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't have
Couldn't
any.
carry yourself.
No, I
Yeah.
didn't have any muscle left. That's what happens when you're in bed for 31 days. Your muscles atrophy, and I never understood what that was like. But when the nurses got me up and out of bed and put me, they wanted me to walk from the bed to the chair, I felt like a newborn doe. Like not a new Bordeaux, like a newborn, You know, like a
I
young,
felt like a suburb of Montreal.
like a calf
Yeah,
that was just
yeah,
been born.
yeah.
My legs wobbled. I couldn't hold myself up. It was an awful feeling. And now I'm waiting for the word from the cardiac surgeon who's going to give me the green light to go back to the gym and, start a program to get my muscles back in my legs. But you're right about eating. But then I have that conversation with myself of, what's life without a hot dog once in a while or a pizza?
Well, the once in a while is
That's
the key.
the key.
It's in everything in moderation.
Yeah.
If you eat poorly on a daily basis, then you're going to, unless you're exercising like a maniac, you're going to put on weight. And even if you're exercising like a maniac, you're either going to break even or you might still put on a little weight. The good news is pretty soon none of us is going to be able to afford food, so we're all going to lose weight.
That's right.
There's a segue for you into your Caesar salad.
Yeah, I don't want to say where we were. I was having dinner with a friend last night here in Montreal, and I said, I know this place. I haven't been here in a long time, but boy, they make a good Caesar salad. And when we got to the restaurant and the menus were presented, and I opened the menu, and I said to my buddy, does your menu say $44? Caesar salad for two, $44? And he said, fuck, it does. A Caesar salad at a restaurant. Now, Caesar salad, bougajou lettuce there. What's it called?
Romaine?
Romaine lettuce, not bougajou lettuce.
No.
Romaine lettuce and, anchovies and an egg and, they make it table side. Very nice, very excellent. Romaine lettuce is, I know it's expensive now because of,
Because everything is.
Because of COVID and,
Yeah.
and supply chain demand and inflation and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't want to, my buddy talked me into it. I didn't want to buy the salad for $44. It was delicious, but what do you think that salad cost to make?
Not $44.
$12?
Yeah.
12 maybe?
Yeah, the markup is outrageous.
Let's say even $15. And you need to make five, so you charge me what, $21, $22? $44. And I know what you're thinking. We were the arseholes who jumped in on the gouge and paid for it. But I was saying to Ted today, I think a lot of this inflation, as it's called, I'm not stupid. I read. I get the economics of inflation. I know how it, I'm not an economist, but I know how it works. But you cannot convince me that companies and corporations across North America have been taking advantage of it. And you can tell on a daily basis when you shop, if you shop for certain things. I was using the example with Ted this morning of a carton of egg whites. A carton of egg whites looks like a carton of milk, only inside is egg whites. And I don't know how many egg whites are in that carton, but I used to buy that carton to make egg white omelets. And that carton of egg whites at Walmart was, before the inflation hysteria, I think I was paying about $5.49 for it. Now it's $8. Now you can't tell me that there isn't somebody in an office somewhere going, let's see, those cookies, put those up 35 cents. The egg whites, put those up $3. Let's start charging $9 for margarine. Let's see what we can get away with. I'm sorry, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I just don't believe corporations aren't going, let's get on the inflation bandwagon and we'll blame inflation. And gouge people.
And if that's not the way it's working, then how does it work? How do they factor inflation into food prices? I don't know. I know that I was used to paying like $2.99 a pound for grapes. Sometimes I'd find them at $1.99 a pound. Now they're $6.99 a pound.
Right. Like grapes, I get fruit and veg, especially in the winter. They're coming from down south.
But they were cheaper in the winter than they are now. Yeah. We're moving into the warm weather, and they're outrageously priced.
And we shop at a store not far from our house in British Columbia that has its own greenhouse. So they're growing and planting their own shit. They're not bringing it in from from Chile or California, and we do the same thing. I remember my mom when I was a kid shopping with, you go shopping with your mother, and I remember her standing in front of things going, are they out of their minds, and putting it back on the shelf. And I don't know if that's an inflationary thing, but I am now my mom when I shop.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm cursed at the store.
I only buy things now, generally speaking, if they're on sale. I'll buy what's on sale. Like, I'm not paying $6.99 for grapes. I love grapes; they're my favorite. They're a staple. That's my go-to fruit. But I'm not going to pay $6.99 a pound. And then I went to Costco thinking, okay, well, I'll get my grapes at Costco because at least you'll get it. There were none. There weren't any grapes.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't know if you've noticed, Ted. I think Costco, for me anyway, I don't see many deals at Costco anymore.
It's just as expensive. You find now.
Inflation is really amped up at Costco, and things that you're familiar with that you buy, on a regular basis. One of the great joys for me is my wife Jess has really, really become an amazing cook. We eat really well at home, and because there are no restaurants around where we live, unless you want to go to a chain restaurant, there are no family restaurants out where we live in that part of the country, and the food is quite shit wherever you go. And I know I've taken some criticism for saying that, but if you're born and raised in Montreal, there's just no comparison. So she's been cooking amazing stuff at home. So she buys some, things on a regular basis. And one of them is, part of our garage is beginning to look like Nona's basement.
Oh, really?
Because one corner of the garage has those San Marzano tomatoes, and we usually buy a case when we go to Costco. And Jess said, I'm not buying them anymore, because when we were buying them prior to Christmas, they were $13 for the case. Now they're $17. And that's not a long period of time. From October of November to March. You can't convince me that $4 extra they're trying to grab isn't a gouge.
I like the gas price psyop as well. That's interesting. And we were talking about that this week, that they've got us trained. We're like trained monkeys, right?
Yeah.
It's now that it's in Montreal of late, it's been up into the 170s. And so as soon as it gets below 170, we think we're getting a deal. Ooh, look at that, 168. Better go fill up. Whereas 2 months ago, I would have gone 168. Are you out of your fucking mind?
Yeah. Jess said that in British Columbia last year, it got up over $2. At one point, I think it was about $2.15, $2.16 a liter. And so much so that gas stations started putting signs up on the pump saying, if you're going to buy more than $250 in gas, you have to come inside. The pump won't take it. So guys that are driving F-150s or F-350s, when they fill up their trucks, they're paying like well over $200 in gas. And she said the same thing. They trained us so that when it came, when it fell to $1.94, we were like, oh, wow, look at that. Gas is under $2.
Lucky us. Yeah. I wouldn't mind so much if my income was increasing exponentially, but it's not, and most people's doesn't.
Corporations seem to shy away from addressing that, I think.
Yeah. Cost of living increases are, I think that's a thing of the past, if it was ever a thing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What are you laughing at?
You couldn't fall asleep.
That obvious.
I'm looking over at Ted, and the lips are getting closer, and the speech is getting more ligament. And it reminds me of when we used to do morning shows.
Yeah.
Because there were, around 8:40 or 8:45, you would get that glazed look in your eye.
I've been up since 2:30. I couldn't sleep last night. I woke up in the middle of the night. Oy, that's funny. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. It was when it was pretty shitty when you did it to Pierre.
Yeah, it was. Poor Pierre. Yeah.
What did you do again?
Well, I said I feel like I'm going to fall asleep. And I didn't mean it. I didn't mean to insinuate that Pierre was boring me. I didn't get to the part where, because I've been up since
Right.
2:30 a.m. and Pierre got up and left.
Yeah, he's
He pretended he was going to get up. He's a good guy, though.
Yeah.
He took it in.
Thank you.
He took it in good humor. All right, now you talk for a while. I'm going to lean on my hand.
I have a question. What do you guys think the solution is to all this?
Well, that's a really good question, Poseidon. I
don't know if there's a solution,
No.
but how's it going to evolve? That's the question.
Yeah.
Where does it end?
I don't know. I think to myself, I think a lot of what it is companies, especially corporations. You can't convince me they're not taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
You can't convince me that they're not trying to, increase their profits and their profit margin and profit share. When Galen Weston went in front of that committee or whatever the hell it was months ago, and he said, on a $25 basket of groceries, we only make $1. And I thought, you fucking liar. I don't believe that for 1 second. First of all, what basket of groceries for $25?
Yeah, seriously.
Please.
Yeah.
You can't get
That's two things.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And as you pointed out, Ted, $50 bills are the new $20.
50s are the new 20s.
Yes.
Yeah. When I go to the bank machine now and it says, do you want 50s or 20s? I take 50s.
Yeah.
Because I know $20 isn't going to get me much anymore.
Yeah. So I don't know, and I don't know where it leads, because if you have a family and you can't afford to buy fruit and veg for the family and growing kids, because, lettuce is, I'm not exaggerating. At one point, a head of iceberg lettuce was $7 out near where we live.
God damn.
Iceberg lettuce is basically water. And transportation, someone's got to pick the lettuce, blah, blah, blah. I understand it. I get it. But you can't convince me that I think there's a feeling of, let's see what we can get. That's what I think is going on.
Yeah.
It's happening in the hotel industry. It's happening in the travel industry. It's happening in the resort industry. I was talking to friends of mine who go to a particular resort every year, and they're lucky, and yes, they make a good living, and not everybody can go to a resort and all of the other counter arguments you could say. But these people have been going to this resort for, I think, 8 or 9 years, and the resort is getting old, and the resort is getting tired, and they were starting to question, how much longer are we going to go back if they don't start making some updates? And when they looked into booking another trip, the price had jumped from year to year over $3,000.
Damn.
Now, how do you justify that? How do you say to a regular customer, that's now $3,000? Hotel rooms, my wife and I looked into a hotel room to stay downtown in Vancouver one night, and we clicked on something called BC Residence Special. And she clicked on it, and the special was you got a regular room that was 460 square feet for $1,100 a night.
Jesus Christ.
And I think to myself, okay, there's supply and demand. Maybe there's something going on that weekend. But do you really have to gouge people that badly?
Well, because what happens is, because of inflation, everyone naturally increases prices. This is a natural thing.
Sure.
If people don't stop buying, businesses will realize, oh, people are buying at the inflated price. They will keep inflating their price to see when people stop. It's up to people to stop buying certain
That's the
things.
thing. Like we will not buy a hotel room at that price. I mean, you've got to. There's got to be something really special going on that you would spend $1,000 a night or $1,100 a night on just a regular hotel room.
There's some things we have to buy, though. We have to buy food. I've got to buy gas. I have no choice.
Absolutely.
I need to buy it to get around. And I know people are going to go, yes, you do have a choice. You can take the bus or the metro.
No, you
or
can't.
You can get a bicycle. No,
You can't.
I got to go to work at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, you can't take the bus.
And I'm a 25-minute drive away from... Part of the problem, too, is that I think historically the economy has been cyclical, but wealth is becoming more and more concentrated.
Yes.
And I think that's breaking the cycle, and it's creating two classes a small class of extremely well-off people and a much larger class of not well-off people. Like the middle class is
Right.
disappearing, is
You know,
what I'm saying.
we were talking about this. The building we sit in, the building this studio is located in, is on a street in Montreal called Chabanel. And Chabanel used to be the heartbeat of the schmutta business in Canada. And for many years, I think it was a huge part of it was in North America. Some of it is still here. Some of the manufacturing is still here. But these used to be buildings, floor after floor after floor of clothing company and sewing machines and manufacturers. And all of the people that were involved in those businesses were not only able to raise a family, but they were able to go out to Laval or to Park X or to Dollard and buy a home for $16,000 or $17,000 and get a mortgage. I know it's ancient history. I understand that. But to your point, that's all gone.
Yeah.
This building has been renovated to accommodate different businesses. There's no more manufacturing or very little manufacturing on Chabanel. All of it comes from offshore. And a lot of the people who have jobs in that industry have to have 2 or 3 jobs. And I get it. You can't run a restaurant and pay everybody $30 an hour.
Yeah.
It isn't economically viable. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't like the idea of what could happen when the middle class completely disappears and there's only people making, minimum wage and other people, making $500,000 a year.
Well, that's when you're in Banana Republic country, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. We as Canadians, we've always been very, very lucky not to have to deal with that
Yeah.
or think about that.
Yeah, I don't know if we're still going to be around when it gets to that.
No.
But I have kids, and I want them to.
Yeah.
them to lead comfortable and prosperous lives. I don't want them to have to.
Also, your son needs to take care of you.
That's right. Yeah,
He's got to have a house with a basement suite for dad.
yeah, and a lap pool, outdoor and indoor, preferably. Here's the answer. Why don't you invent something
There you go.
and make a fortune?
Okay.
And here's who can help you do that. Vozwin, one of the sponsors and supporters of this program, an engineering firm that does engineering consulting. If you have an invention idea, and I think the simplest ideas are the best ones. Don't try to think of anything too complicated. Try to come up with something simple. Or maybe you have an existing business and you want to expand and you have an idea that requires an engineering component. You're not sure how to handle it. Call Vozwin. They do product development, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, industrial engineering and design, and software development. They also do CTO or Chief Technological Officer style service. They'll take you through the whole process. As Terry says, they will take the idea from your head and put it into your hands. They call themselves weirdos for other weirdos, and I like that about them. They don't take themselves too seriously, but they take what they do very seriously, and they're very good at it, and they've gotten inquiries off this podcast. We have some would-be inventors
Quite proud of that.
listening to us
Yep.
here. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of, who was Buddy who invented everything? Thomas Edison?
Thomas Edison.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got a bunch of Edisons out there listening to the podcast. You want to be the next one? Vozwin, VOZWIN.com.
He's been crowing about us on LinkedIn too.
He
Have
has
you
been,
seen
yeah.
that?
He's been paying us some high praise, and we
Yes.
appreciate that,
Yeah.
Sean. Thank you very much. Coming from a guy like that,
Yes.
that is high praise.
Yeah,
That's a smart guy.
When we first met him, I said, "Are you sure you know what you're doing? Are you sure we can help you?" We're very, very pleased to have the support of these sponsors, and as I've mentioned on a couple of podcasts, listen, we're not in this for the money. We don't do it for the money. I do it for the joy of it. I don't have an opportunity to do it anymore. All the platforms have, turned away from experienced broadcasters in this country. So experienced broadcasters have turned to podcasting. I don't know if you noticed.
Yep.
But a lot of people who were very good at broadcasting are now podcasting. And because of travel and whatnot, we need the support of our sponsors. And we're thrilled that they believe in us. And these are sponsors that we've, by and large, met a long time ago, like the Mersons. There was an instance where I had just come back to Montreal after being raised here and growing up here. I was in Manitoba for 6 years. I came back to the city. I didn't know the city. I had an old beater of a car, wasn't making a lot of money, and I took it to a mechanic when I had problems with it, and I got ripped off, like really ripped off. And it really drove me nuts, and I was talking about it with friends, and one of the people said, "Why didn't you talk to me? You should bring that to the Mersons." And I said, "Who are the Mersons?" And at the time, it was Mark and Bonnie Merson, and the shop was at the corner of St. Jacques and Cavendish, where it still is. And over the years, they have grown the business. There's a few more employees. The garage is quite big. Behind the shop, there's all kinds of room to park cars that they're working on. They take care of everything. If you need a tune-up, if you need brakes, if you don't know what's wrong with your car and you want them to look at it. I've been in the waiting room before where they've put a car up on a hoist and changed a washer or a screw or replaced a hose and said to the customer, "It's okay, don't worry about it. You can come back and see us when you're ready for another tune-up." That's the kind of people they are. They're honest as day is long. They take a great deal of pride in their work. And they sell tires, but they look after your car, keep it running for years. Generations of Montrealers have been going. Often you'll see fathers and sons in the waiting room at winter tire time. That's something that I like. I think that says a lot about who the Mersons are.
I talked about 50s being the new 20. There's something else that's going to be a thing of the past soon. Cash.
Yes.
Are we moving to a cashless, entirely cashless society? Because I recently went to a pub and ordered some nachos to go, and I pulled out a $50 bill to pay, and the girl looked at me in total confusion.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, magic beans.
Yeah, exactly. And then she turned and she went to another girl, and the other girl went and got change, and they kept the change in a sandwich baggie. Like they don't even have a cash register or a till anymore because nobody uses cash anymore except me. So she gave me my change out of a sandwich baggie.
I never leave the house without cash. I don't know if that's an ingrained thing, but I do not like to be out without cash on me. And now there are businesses, like when we go down to, if you're familiar with Vancouver, you know what Granville Island is. Granville Island is like Atwater Market, lots of little shops, and only this one's right on the Pacific Ocean. And most of the merchants in there will not take cash. You know, I went in one day to try one of these donuts everybody had been telling me about, and I had a half-hour wait, and I thought, I'm going to go over and try one of those donuts. And I pulled out a $5 bill, and they, "Oh, no, credit or debit only, sir." And then, of course, there's the Apple Pay machine comes out, and before you pay for your donut, there's the question of, would you like to offer a 30% tip for that?
No, I would not.
No, I would not either.
Yeah, that's absurd.
What do you do with that, Poseidon? You're of a younger generation.
Yeah. I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm a little bit old school, though.
Okay.
I grew up a little old school. I like to hang out with older people. I always have cash on me as well.
Yeah, okay.
And if I don't have, I go and I pull out. I make sure I always have cash on me. It's an innate habit because you feel stuck without cash.
I do too. I just don't like to be out of the house without cash on me. But to Ted's point, not only is it not accepted in some places now, there's a lot of confusion when you present cash.
These poor girls had no idea what was going on.
No, and
Ooh, that's pretty.
Yeah, and also the skill of making change is gone.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Well, I tried a few weeks ago. I tried to make change on this very street, and people looked at me like I was the devil. It was just what? No, I don't have.
What do you do about the tipping thing?
Look, tipping, it's gotten a little absurd over time. I read an article that down in the States, there are some grocery stores and even stadiums, when you order at like a machine or like when you do the self-checkout, they'll ask for a tip.
Right.
But it's a self-checkout. Who is the tip? Anyways, stuff like that. Look.
A tip at a self-checkout?
Yeah.
Is there an option on it that says fuck off?
I don't know. I read it fast.
I saw the article. The idea was, thanks for packing your own bags, and don't get me started on bags again. But you could offer a tip for the staff. The staff who are working behind the scenes, working very hard.
But then shouldn't they tip you? If you did their job, shouldn't you? Here's a 5% discount for packing your own bags.
Well, yeah, I saw a great cartoon of a guy sitting in a lunchroom with his 2 bags on the lunchroom table in a store, and one person is saying to the guy with the lunch, "You don't work here. You're not supposed to be here." And he said, "Well, I pack my own bags. I kind of do work here, so I can have lunch in the lunchroom."
Yep.
That's funny. That's clever. Yeah. What was I going to say? The tipping for the donut thing, it's I find that completely preposterous as well.
I did too. Ted will attest to this. I've been taking a lot of pride in being a good tipper most of my life.
Yeah.
And especially when I had the money to do it, I often over tipped. My wife will tell you that. And I will not tip you if you hand me a donut. I don't think that's think that's a tippable service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pass me a donut. Thank you.
If you make me food now and you go through the process and you give me good service, then I'll tip like a $2 dollar. That's fine, no matter what the bill is. That's not that bad. But or waiters or my barber, I tip my barber. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like if you're just handing me things that are already made, and you're just pouring a cup of coffee, I'm sorry.
If you're this morning Ted and I had breakfast. If you're a waitress that works in a diner like we were at this morning, you're on your feet all day for 10, 11 hours. And they're working hard, and they really working hard, and they were kind, and they were quick, and they were nice.
Terry gave her a good tip. And we got out of there. We both had bacon and eggs. Yeah. And we get out of there. It was $20 and change. Yeah. And Terry gave her 30 and said, "Keep the change."
Yeah, and she was quite pleased.
Yeah.
But that's also a little bit different because waiters are actually also under minimum wage.
Yes.
So because the government expects them to make up the rest of their wage through tips. So if you don't tip somebody in that service industry, a waiter or waitress, they actually have to pay out of pocket.
Yes.
So, there's a difference there. But for the donut, no, it's preposterous. I agree with you, Terry.
Yeah.
And as much as cash is no longer king and increasingly irrelevant, you'd better have a debit card and or a credit card when you leave the house.
Yes.
I don't think you can function without one now. No. As an example, I was on Highway 30 not too long ago, and they don't take cash at the tolls anymore.
They don't?
No cash at the tolls.
Didn't know that.
If you don't have a debit card or a credit card, you're not getting through the toll. You got to turn around and go back. I don't think I'm wrong there. Nope. I didn't see any options for cash because they've done away with the people in the booths, right? It's all automated now. And the baskets where I used to throw my coins in, they're gone.
Yeah.
Because coins, what are you going to get for coins these days?
Yeah. I kind of miss, I don't miss tolls, but I remember that, I'm old enough to remember when those were, you had to pitch the quarter in the basket on the Champlain Bridge or the Laurentian Auto Route.
And is that how much it was? A quarter?
Yeah, at the time it was a quarter, and then there was the big outrage when it went up to 50 cents, and then the government's got the idea that the way to win votes is to ban toll booths and increase taxes.
Yeah, you know what my sort of, I don't know if it's measuring stick is the right word, but when I think of like back in my day,
yes,
here's what things cost back in my day. I can remember as a 10-year-old kid, so this would have been around 1969. Back in the hippie days.
Yes, sir.
Getting a chocolate bar and a bottle of pop for 25 cents.
Yes.
The chocolate bar was a dime and the bottle of pop was 15 cents. And you tell that to a young person today and they go, "Jeepers, mister, were you in the war?"
But I think every generation, I listen to my parents tell those stories. I think, and if you're listening to this podcast and you're 20 and you're going, "Oh, Christ."
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you will tell the same kinds of stories when it comes, when your turn comes, because you will lament the disappearance of things.
You're going to find this hard to believe, but we used to buy Caesar salad for $44. You're full of shit, Grandpa. There's no way. There's no way you got it for less than $1,000.
This is another thing that I've noticed is shrinkage. And I think that's what they call it in the stores.
Yes. Yeah.
I see it. I don't know it. I'm not weighing it. I'm not Googling it, but I see it. I see what you're doing. A tin of Campbell's soup is now like the size of a fucking thimble. And I think to myself,
How am I supposed to dip my sandwich in that?
like, and the price of a tin of soup keeps going up. And I think to myself,
And the can of soup keeps getting smaller.
smaller.
Yeah.
How much tinier can you make that can before people go, hey, all right?
Yeah.
See, with that? I don't know.
Yeah.
What do we know, Ted?
Not much apparently.
No.
And also not how much money do you have to make? How big does your profit margin
Well, and this
have
is the
to
thing.
be?
I'm not a communist, and I'm a capitalist.
Yes, as
get
am
it.
I, yeah.
I worked hard to do what I did and earn money and save money, and I get how the system works, and I don't want to like lead the revolution, but when I look at corporations who make $1.3 billion every 3 months, over $1 billion a quarter, and that corporation is cutting staff and doubling up the work for the people that they have, I think to myself,
so that they can make $1.5 billion next quarter.
How much fucking money do you need? Like, when does it stop? I get it. If you own shares in that company, you're going, I'm going to get my dividends. But at some point, isn't there a straw that breaks the camel's back?
I don't think they
know.
think that way. They just think in turn, like, I think there's a very dispassionate,
Yeah.
almost a sociopathic mentality that
Yeah.
goes into the way that they think at these corporations. There's not a shred of humanity or empathy for the working man.
My wife worked for one of the largest companies in the country. And she took leave off to take care of me. And I went into the hospital and had that operation and then had complications and was on life support and was in the hospital for 31 days. And she was off for a couple of months to aid me in my recovery. And not once, not one person, not one manager, not one colleague bothered to check in. No one said to her, how are you doing? How is your husband? Not one person. And she had a couple of close friends in her department who checked in on her. But the people she worked for, the work that she was doing for these people that were running this place, never bothered with her. That says something about the way these corporations are run,
and
I think.
I think it all comes from the top, too.
Goddamn right it does.
If that's the way they think at the top, then that's going to permeate through management all
Poisonous, toxic, awful place.
the way down. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good segue to talk about our friends, Nino and Renato Di Cubelis.
Okay.
At Jaguar Land Rover Laval. The irony is, after Terry and I spend an hour or so here belly aching about the fabulously wealthy, we're going to drive away in a Jaguar.
And I said poisonous, toxic place. This is not that.
Anything but. And we have a courtesy car from our sponsors and friends at Jaguar Land Rover Laval, because every time Terry flies in, they give me a courtesy vehicle to ferry him to and fro. And they've given us an XF sedan, a beautiful, beautiful vehicle. Jaguars and Land Rovers, if you know anything about cars, you know they're high-end luxury brands, British brands. The Jaguar F-Type, XF, F-Pace, I-Pace, and E-Pace SUVs, Land Rover Defender, Discovery, Range Rover, quality products that speak for themselves. But the guys who run Jaguar Land Rover Laval are the antithesis of what we just described.
Yes.
When we talked about the heartless corporate types. Nino and Renato are anything but. They're such decent, down-to-earth people.
You know when you meet somebody, you're introduced to somebody at a party, and you get an immediate warm vibe from them, and you think their smile is really engaging, and you think to yourself, this is a really kind person. That happened to me again
With Nino?
when we were there on Sunday. We were standing next to Nino, and I thought, I'm in the company of a good, decent, kind human being. And that's that permeates that place, and you'll see that even if you go there just to look, even if you go there not intending to buy a car, you'll be welcomed.
Yeah. They're on Boulevard Le Carrefour at the corner of Chamedy. They've got a certified pre-owned dealership on Boulevard Chamedy in Laval, and right next door to that is their McLaren dealership. You want to talk about some high-end cars, and again, you're more than welcome to go in and just have a look.
Yep.
Just have a look. And as you pointed out, when we were up there for the open house the other day, they didn't have those cars roped off.
Nope.
They weren't shooing people away from those cars, telling them, be careful, don't touch that, get away. Everybody was welcome. Good people. I mean, you can buy a lot of different high-end luxury cars, but it's the customer experience that makes the difference at Jaguar Land Rover Laval. Before you buy a new car, if you're in the market for something at that level, make sure you check out jaguarlaval.com or landroverlaval.com.
And a moment for my friends at Matelas Bonheur, another family-run business. You know that that's a common thread. Listen, I know you can buy a mattress in a lot of places. There are department stores that sell them. There are other places that sell them. But do me a favor, do yourself a favor, and before you buy a mattress, make sure one of your stops is Matelas Bonheur. There are locations all over the place in and around the Montreal area, on and off the island. And you'll see what I'm saying when you get there. When you get to the store, you'll be welcomed with a smile and that warmth that we were talking about. And you'll be questioned by one of their extremely well-trained employees. Everybody who ends up working in a Matelas Bonheur store has to reflect the values of the family that own that company. It's Quebec-owned, it's Quebec-run, it's family-run. They deal with Canadian suppliers. And the only thing in these beautifully designed stores are things that pertain to a good night's sleep. So you can get a futon there. You can get a fancy mattress that goes up and down. You can get just a simple mattress for the guest room. You know, if you're changing a room because your kids have gone to college, they'll help you with new pillows, new linens, or if you want to change the mattress because you've been lying on a lumpy sack of shit for 10 years, they'll change that for you, and they'll make sure that your mattress is something that's going to enhance and make for a good night's sleep.
Don't sleep on a lumpy sack of shit. Visit Matelas Bonheur.
Yeah, I don't write their advertising company
Really?
Copy, and I don't know if they would approve of me saying that, but it's a wonderful place. I've been friends with them for years, and you'll see what I mean when you walk into any one of their locations. Go to MatLabaner.ca.
Well, the mattress commercial has put me right over the edge, Terry. I got to get out of here. Yeah, let's get out onto the mat so I can fall asleep at the wheel.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have another grandpa event today.
Probably have
With
more
your
than
hands
one.
At 10 and 2. I'm going to change lanes.
Poseidon would have laughed at that. Christ,
Oh my
that
God.
was funny.
Yeah. I guess that wraps up another episode of the, because we're losing Pops over there.
Yeah,
so-
I'm done. I am done.
Thanks so much. As I said many, many times in this season of the podcast, we so appreciate you listening to the podcast. Pantelis gave us a little breakdown of people who download it on Apple and Spotify and people that watch on YouTube. And we got everything like age breakdown and stuff. And it's really a wonderful array of diverse Montrealers, ex-Montrealers, Quebecers,
And our moms.
and our moms and our families. Thanks for listening to the podcast, and our thanks to Poseidon, who got to play on this one, because the first couple of days of recording we had a lot of guests. You didn't get to play very much.
Of course, but it's fine. It's all about the guests.
Right,
When we got guests, it's all about the guests.
There you go.
Sleepy time.
Sleeping time. Night, night, Ted.
Night now.
Standing by, the Terry and Ted podcast has been brought to you by the UPS Store Canada, delivering more for small businesses in Canada.